Welcome back to AM Live. The conversation continues in terms of the power plays in the workspaces and the need to involve women more. And perhaps you're asking, is there a need for that? Should we all just be competing at an equal level? Well, is there an equal level for women and men to compete in the first place? We'll be getting to more positions being presented by and pitches from the podium on this leadership forum discussion today. We've had two. We'll revisit and look at the themes that have been raised. As you can see, there are some numbers there that you can call in and give your contribution as you continue following the conversation. We'll be listening from Wanjiru Kamwathi and also from Reverend Jeffrey Jenga on this issue. But as well, we will be going back to that issue of the accident in terms of getting an update. And yes, it was announced, or at least news came out earlier tonight that, from 11:30 p.m. it is suspected that the accident occurred where 13 people were killed, and their scores others have been injured, and many have been taken to the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital, where our correspondent Oko Kusa joins us for another update. When we spoke last, you had managed to speak to some of the victims in this particular accident. What more can you tell us in terms of what you've gathered, who was involved, and where we are in terms of giving treatment to those who have been injured?
Yes, Mark, as I mentioned earlier on, is that there has been some go-slow in Kisumu County as far as health workers are concerned, and therefore in terms of response to treatment here, there's that challenge in the sense that since they were brought here, 14 of them survivors of this grisly accident are yet to get proper treatment. We've seen people there who are still crying out for help. They have not received the kind of assistance they were expecting. And another thing that is coming up is that we still can't account for 9 passengers in that ill-fated bus. We all understand that we have 14 being treated here as we speak. There are 12, of course, who perished, who were in that particular bus. And according to our arithmetics, we can't account for about 9 to 10 passengers. Of course, when we were speaking to some of the passengers or survivors inside there, they told us that initially, before they were brought here, they were taken to some private hospital somewhere which were demanding for some deposit upfront before they are treated. And so we suspect that maybe some of these passengers who had that money could have remained in those particular hospitals. But we will be moving to those mentioned hospitals just to find out if some of these passengers were treated or are being treated in those particular places. But here where we are, of course, treatment is still going on. Remember, there were 2 children. There's a woman called Elizabeth who was traveling in the company of 2 children, sons, one aged 6 years old, another one 2 years old. The 2-year-old boy perished on the spot, while the 6-year-old boy is still fighting for his life inside there. We are told, we are made to understand that he's in a critical condition. And besides that, of course, we also understand that there are 6 adults who perished on the spot, and another 6 the adults male and the 6 female who perished on the spot. That is besides the drivers of the trailer and of course the driver of the bus. So those are the numbers that we understand right now, the statistics involved in this particular accident. As I mentioned, there are 9, we are yet to account for 9 passengers who were in that ill-fated bus. This particular bus, just to bring to speed some of our viewers, is that it had originated from Bondo, which is in Siaya County, and was heading to Nairobi. So it left Bondo at around 10, made a stopover in Kisumu for about an hour, where it picked additional passengers. We are made to understand that some of those passengers actually had just boarded the bus in Kisumu, and 45 kilometers later, which is at Pala, where the accident occurred, it happened. And besides that, of course, we are made to understand again that the driver of the ill-fated bus was trying to overtake a tractor ferrying cane when it was involved in a head-on collision with an oncoming trailer. That is the information we have so far for our viewers who are joining us now, who are just understanding or who are just getting to learn about this particular accident. Those are the facts surrounding this particular accident, which has claimed 13 lives so far, 4 people still fighting for their lives, seriously injured. According to some of the rescuers at the scene of the accident, they said that 4 people who they managed to extricate from the wreckage were seriously injured and were, of course, rushed here at Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital, where they are receiving treatment. All the bodies that were collected at the scene, according to the Regional Police Commandant Nyanza, Victor Makoha, were brought here at Jaramogi Oginga Teaching and Referral Hospital mortuary. That is where the bodies that were collected at the scene, 13 of them, were brought to. As we speak, the scene of the accident has partly been cleared. The wreckage of the bus was towed to Awasi police station. However, the trailer is still lying there at the scene with a badly damaged cabin. We are talking of a cabin that is like completely finished. So from the wreckages at the scene, you can actually tell that the impact was very strong, Mark. And of course, those who survived this accident can attest to that. Back to you, Mark.
Head on to follow up on the other possible victims of this particular accident who were involved, and you say we can't account for 9 to 10 of them. Just one issue on the possible numbers that we might have of those who were in the bus, the Eldoret Express bus, as the numbers, we clarify on the numbers. Was it fully packed as it was leaving Kisumu? You've mentioned it made a stop over there.
Yes, according to the Turnboy, by the time the accident occurred, they had 36 on board. This is a bus which has a capacity of 41. And it's of course clear that by the time it was leaving Bondo, which is its origin, it had not attained that capacity of 36, because we were made to understand that along the way somewhere at a place known as Ndori, it picked quite a number of passengers, including Elizabeth, who was traveling in the company of her 2 sons. And again, at a place known as Obambo, which is just about 6 kilometers away from Kisumu, it also picked some passengers. So by the time it was leaving Kisumu, that number had increased to 36, according to the Turnboy, or the conductor whom we have just spoken with inside the casualty right behind me there, Mark.
There has been a comment from Benson Maweu, the Kisumu County Police boss, in terms of those who've been affected in this particular accident. Any word at all on the suspected involvement of that tractor carrying sugarcane, and whether the person who was behind the wheel, if it were really confirmed, has been found?
Well, Mark, sorry, it has been sort of confusing. When we got at the scene, we didn't actually see that particular tractor that was ferrying cane that you're talking about. So we really didn't understand whether the driver was arrested or whether the vehicle was impounded. But when we got to the scene, actually, we were so much concentrating on the victims and the survivors and the rescue operation that was happening at that particular time. So we haven't actually made a serious follow-up regarding this particular cane tractor that was said to have sort of caused this particular accident. Remember, it was not actually hit. The driver of the bus avoided slamming into it, and that is in the process of overtaking and of course crashing into the oncoming trailer. So it was not physically involved in this particular accident, but as we've mentioned there, it is said that it was in front of the bus, and the bus driver couldn't actually, only realized too late that he was gonna slam into this particular tractor ferrying cane. So as we speak now, we can't tie the tractor on physically on the accident, because it was not physically involved in that particular accident, but we mentioned that due to lack of sufficient lighting and of course those reflectors, the driver of the ill-fated bus could not see it in good time, and that's the reason why by the time he realized that there was a tractor in front of him, he decided to overtake and, of course, crash into that oncoming trailer. So from here, we'll try and get more information regarding its whereabouts, whether the driver has been arrested or if the police are intending to take any action against the driver of that particular trailer that was ferrying sugarcane, Mark.
Thank you very much. Oko Kusa joining us from Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital. A long night it's been for you as you followed this particular story. And it's going to be a long day, especially as families come to reality of this sad news. And as you can anticipate, not everyone knows what has happened to their loved ones, or those who were traveling in that Eldoret Express bus that we're told was coming from Bondo and heading to Nairobi, and was with about 36 passengers. Although it has a capacity of 36 passengers. But what we have confirmed is at least 13 people have been killed, 4 are in critical condition and getting treatment, 14 still to get treatment. As you can expect, the issue of the go-slow at the hospital in Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital is affecting the response to this, but they are getting the treatment needed, especially the 4 who are critically injured, and 9 to 10 cannot be accounted for. Oko Kusa is getting to the bottom of this, and as well that issue of the sugarcane tractor that is said to have been involved in one way or another in this accident, or at least causing it. We are going to follow these particular issues in this story. So yes, as also we continue with this conversation on the workspace, I did comment on the number that you can use to call in as you follow the conversation. Perhaps you agree with what is being said by the panel, or you don't agree. It is your opinion and is your right. You can call in 0719-038865. I believe my director will be able to give the numbers in a bit. That's 0719-038865. You'll just call in, give your name and where you're watching us from, and your comment. The other number is 0732-138865. That's 0732-138865. And yes, let's continue with the pitches that you can perhaps respond to as a panel. The various members of the panel give their position on this issue of the power play in the workspace between men and women, and the need for more inclusivity in terms of gender. And we have Wanjiru Kamwathi, the HR manager at Java. Yes, if it rings a bell, Java. Yes, that's probably where you'd want to be going for a cup of coffee. And my director says you should be buying us coffee. But no, we will not coerce. Wanjiru, please take to the stands and address the nation as a HR practitioner, what you encounter in terms of the people that come for recruitment, and your position on this issue. And your time starts now.
Thank you, Mark. And yes, you can have coffee in Java.
Thank you.
Just to come to the space of the discussion today, I want to talk about policies. I think for me, it's a matter of policies. I don't think we are, even as a country, making the policies work. We have them in writing, but I don't think they are in a proper space of work. In terms of, for instance, I'll give an example of the Employment Act. The Employment Act states that you should not discriminate. No employer should discriminate against anyone from the basis of race, from the basis of gender, and many other things. The question is, what's the bottom line? Do we get to the bottom line? When we say that, what is the nitty-gritty of that statement? You know, I don't think we have gone to the root of that statement and just agree on what exactly are we supposed to do with that statement. And when we say do not discriminate, what do we really mean? So for me, that's a space that I, as a practitioner in HR, would like to be addressed, and in a bigger way, and just not to be in a space where we are thinking we have dealt with everything because we have done the discussions, we have talked about it, but what have we done after the talk? It's where we call for walking the talk, you know, as opposed to just writing on paper. And policymakers will say, but it is in the policy. True, it is in the policy, but is it being followed? Is somebody checking it? Is there a measure to say, yes, we said this policy should be followed, and this is the policy in line with this particular space, and what exactly have we gone into the space of measuring it and having an actual measure and saying it is working. It is working at 30%. It is working at 50%, or we have made it and it is working at 100% now. When you come to gender disparities at work, you will find that, I mean, coming back from where I work, it's very interesting because it's almost like the flip of what we are talking about. You'll find that in our, the way the society has formed most of us is that, I mean, and we are getting out of it, I have to acknowledge that we have the women in the kitchen and the men out, you know, fending for the family. And you come into the restaurant industry, it's possibly the right opposite. Our men are in the kitchen more than the women are. And the women are out, probably serving more than the men are. So it's really like a flip of what we are discussing, but it's a good thing to see that. But you have to realize that that's just professional because that profession calls for that, you know. And at the end of the day, the question really that I beg to have answered is, are we teaching our children the same as they are growing up? Because I think this is a discussion that should come from a very young age, and I will reference to what Lloyd talked about. We need to go back to our primary schools, you know. We are talking about women entering the workspace, male counterparts entering the workspace at very different levels. The question is, when did we start shaping them? Are we shaping them at entry of the workspace, or are we shaping them even before they think, what am I going to do with this education? Because at the end of the day, you take your child to school when they are like 3, 4. Then the question that we beg today is, what are you teaching that child, even at that age of 3 to 4? And I mean, going back to our societal beliefs, are we teaching our children that boys do certain things and girls do certain things? And what is our education system looking like? You know, are we teaching our girls to get into the STEM programs? Half the time you will find that we have more male counterparts within the STEM program because that's where they were started off. They were told, oh, boys do good in math, boys do good in science, boys do good in this, or girls do good in home science. And ideally, you end up just dividing the two from a very young age. So that should be checked at that point. And I agree with Lloyd for that matter. One of the other things that, in my opinion, I come strongly about is we are not having a lot of mentors who are women within the workplace. That already sets a platform. Ideally, you will find that even if you have a lot of mentors in the workspace, the question is, would a woman who needs mentoring prefer to be mentored by a man or a woman, you know? And the more I see women in management levels, the more I realize that you will find that they become the role models. But if we lack the women in the management level, then of course the women at the start level or entry level will lack role models. They don't have people to look up to. And ideally, you'll find that most of them will go up to middle management, but they can't go beyond that because they're thinking, okay, this is where I have seen every other woman in my life.
Sorry, let's wrap up now. It's the 5 minutes is over.
While talking about that, we have professional discrimination within the workspace. Ideally, when you look at the professions that men do and women do, are very different. You look at if you walk into a hospital, you find all the women are nurses. And, well, not all of them, quite a number of them, and just a few of them are doctors. And then the opposite is also very true, that there are very few nurses. And the question is, do we want to go that direction, or do we want to empower both male and female to understand that they can do both?
Thank you very much, Wanjiru. As you take your seat, there are people who've called, who've responded to the lines that we opened in terms of contribution before Rev takes to the stand. We'll just take a call from Odho. I believe he is watching us from Kisumu. Sir, good morning to you, and what is your comment as you follow the conversation?
Yeah, good morning, Mark, and I have to thank you for the great debate there.
Asante.
And indeed, I want to first start by thanking the government for instituting Labor Relations Act 2016, which was 2027, I think, which was meant to defend employees. However, Mark, I want to speak for the very many Kenyans who are suffering, who have lacked platform to express their views in terms of how employers in this our beloved country are treating employees. Mark, indeed, employees get fired left, right, center, up and down, but they don't have platform, and a lot of them don't have civic education on what mitigation measures they need to take so as to defend their rights. I can tell you, Mark, for a fact, brother, that a lot of Kenyans don't know that there exists industrial code, and a lot of Kenyans don't know there exists labor laws. But however, Mark, when these courts were instituted, I was in Nairobi with my brother who was working in trade union, and I know those times, Mark, the judges like Judge Mukonya, Judge Chemutut, call them, they were no-nonsense judges. They were executing these cases with a lot of power and vigor, and they gave hope to employees. But I can tell you today, Mark, the judiciary has deliberately decided to cap off that right, such that if you are earning less than 75,000 shillings, then you are not entitled to take your case to labor law, to industrial law. You are referred to other jurisdictions, Brother Mark. I think, in my opinion, this one has treated as really, it's not fair, Brother Mark, because these industrial judges are specially trained to handle industrial causes.
Right.
So this is my humble plea to the government. Thank you, Brother Mark.
Thank you very much, Otho. Quite a passionate plea there that you've given. And yes, this will inform, I hope you've been taking the notes there on knowing their rights, employees knowing their rights. And this is generally, whether it's male or female, something that we can touch on as we continue with the conversation. Andrew is also calling in from Ruai. Good morning, sir. And what's your comment? He's hung up on us. Well, Andrew, maybe he had stayed on the line for quite a while there and could not hang on longer. But yes, the lines are open, 0719038865 or 0732138865. You can call in and we'll take your comment on this. I'm told we could probably hang in there and anticipate a call from, is this still Andrew from Ruai? Yes, I think he's hung up. But yes, if he's still following, sorry about that, Andrew, you could call back again and we'll take your comment. And first of all, let's save that comment from Otho and respond to it and have Reverend Jeffrey Jenga, who is a corporate governance expert and mediator on other aspects as well. He could probably tell us a bit about that. You have your 5 minutes, sir, and address the nation using that camera. The time starts now.
Good morning to all of you. I'm glad to be here. I had said earlier that society creates structures and culture, especially to maintain the status quo and protect the powerful. And that is true even as we think about the relationship of men and women in the workplace. That's the context within which we will see it. Now, I have no doubt in my mind that this will change, and it is changing. And I also know the place of the laws and policies. But I think we need to do much, much more than that, because what needs to change is probably more so the software, the heart, to accept that change has come and change will happen. So we need to work more on changing the software, the heart, the mind. People don't steal in this country because we don't have laws. We do have them. But we have made it very easy for people to steal, and therefore we are not changing their heart. Now, we are gifted differently as men and women, and that's no reason to put her down for whatever purposes that one may have. Let me address a few lies that we say about women. Some people say that women are weak. You can't be further from the truth. She has scaled the highest level of success in every sphere of life. She is not weak. Some people say that the woman is all beauty and nothing else. Again, that's a lie, perpetrated and perpetuated by those who take the stereotype of the beauty and the beast. Beautiful, yes, but much, much more if you care to see. And she must remain beautiful. Other people say she cannot do it. And I'm yet to know what she cannot do. Like I said, we are gifted differently. You are a man by design. She is a woman by design for a purpose. So who is this woman? The woman is the heart of the family, a very special place to be. The woman is the mother of the nation, a very good place to be. The woman is the flower among us, and she is the creator of life, and we can go on and talk about her. And you know, in the beginning, the heavens declared that everything was very good when she was created. She is a special person. Now, let me talk to the woman herself. If we are going to bridge this gap, the woman needs to wake up to the reality that she has a lot to do. She has to deal with the personal feelings of inadequacy. Because society has said, because society has created structures to put her down, she must reject that and she must rise to the occasion. She must somehow learn to juggle the family and the corporate life. Both are crucial and they're important, the family and the corporate life. She needs to know how to juggle that. She needs to reject the societal prejudice and bigotry and cultural predetermination. This patriarchal society would want to keep her down forever. She must deal with that. She must also deal with sheer envy and jealousy by men who think that leadership is a preserve of men and men only. Rise up and refuse to accept that men feel you are encroaching their turf when you want to be in leadership. You can indeed do it. So how do you do that in conclusion? You must prepare, lady. You prepare well to be in the workplace. Study, qualify. There are no favors. Opportunities, as we know, are for those who are prepared. And then, should you want to be in the workplace, play the part. In mind, play the part. In body, play the part in your soul. Dress like that executive that you want to be. Talk like that executive that you want to be. Keep the company of those who will help you. I think that's what we call mentoring. And be hungry to get involved. Don't allow yourself to be put down, and then create a helpful network that will help you get where you want to go. And then, perhaps above all else, have values you will not surrender. You have values you will not surrender for any reason, whatsoever. And fight tough, but fight fair. Family, career are important, but fight tough, but fight fair. Thank you.
Reverend Njenga, thank you for that. Now, let's start with Andrew. We've got him back online, and please take the notes down as they raise issues. Andrew from Ruai, thank you for hanging in there. Your comments, sir. Good morning.
Yes, how are you?
Salam.
Fine.
If you can, reduce the volume on the television set.
Hello. Yes. Nakusikia.
Endelea.
Naitwa Andrew from Ruai. Hello?
Andrew, tafadhali punguza sauti kwenye TV.
Ina sauti kwa TV nakwambia naitwa Andrew Ruai kutoka Ruai.
Yes, endelea.
Ninaangalia katika awazi. Kuna ambayo imefanyikana pande hiyo. Na hiyo imeweza kujalia watu wengi wetu sana. Na wameweza kupoteza uhai.
Tunasema pole kwao.
Tumesema pole kwao.
Yes.
Na tulikuwa tunasema kuwa NTSA ni vizuri wangerudi kwa barabara.
All right.
Ili waweze kuzingatia mwelekeo wa barabara, kwa sababu gari zingine siku hizi hazina vitiviti mwendo zile ambazo zinastahili, kwa sababu ndio zinafanya zinakuja hizo ajali. Kama juzi nasikia katika wale wako na magari wamewekewa vitiviti mwendo ambayo katika NTSA ikiangalia hizo wanasema gari fulani ni vitiviti mwendo.
Kweli.
Kwa hivyo ni vizuri tuzingatie maagizo kama sisi wananchi ama sisi wa mapassenger, tukipanda gari tuwe tukijua kama uko pale mbele gari kikimbia spidi kubwa, uko na right ya kusema tafadhali dereva endesha gari pole pole.
Kweli.
Ndio waswahili walisema pole pole ndio uchukue nini, pole pole ndio mwendo,
haraka haraka ina baraka.
Haraka ina baraka. Kwa hivyo ni vyema tungesaidia sisi wenyewe, sisi tunafaa kujua kama NTSA tuangalie magari tukapopanda vitiviti mwendo,
kweli
tuweze kufanyikia pamoja.
Asante sana Andrew, tunashukuru umeongea kama watu 10 as they say, and that's on a serious note. He's just addressing the tragedy that has occurred earlier on overnight in Awasi, killing 13 people, the road accident there between the Eldoret Express bus and a trailer. And we'll be getting an update with Oko Kusa, who's following up on this particular story. Maina from Kipipiri, good morning and thank you for calling in. What's your comment?
Yangu ni kwanza ni pole kwa sababu wale wamekufa juu ya hiyo ajali.
Kweli. Endelea.
Alafu kuna shida kuhusu employment vile mnaongea. Jinsi watoto wanalewa inakuwa baya sababu wazazi wengi hawana shughuli na watoto. Sababu kama ukiangalia wakati wa especially wasichana wanalewa, wanaambiwa wanatakiwa wasome ndio wawe na kazi nzuri. Lakini mzazi wake hamwambii, hasa alizaliwa akiwa mwanamke ndio awe mama, awe bibi, na awe nguzo muhimu katika familia. Hiyo ni shida moja ambao wazazi wamepotelea.
Endelea.
Kwa hivyo huyu mtoto hata wakati atakuwa mkubwa hatafikiria maneno ya kuwa tina jamii yakiwa na bwana ama awe na watu ambao wako karibu na yeye. Hasa yeye atakuwa anajifikiria yeye mwenyewe. Hiyo ni shida moja imetokea. Ile shida nyingine imekuja ni kuhusu promotion kwa employment.
Okay.
Kwa promotion watu wale wako katika ile managerial level kwenda juu. Ujue wao ndio wapata kitu kama 1,300, whereas subordinate staff anapewa 10,000. Sasa huyu boss atafikiria wale wako chini wakati gani? Hiyo ingine ni kuna mama mmoja amesema watu wengi wanaongea, lakini kwa Kizungu ni kusema walk the talk, not talk the talk, the walk. Kweli. Hiyo shida ile tuko nayo katika nchi, kutoka ile kubwa hadi ile iko chini.
Kweli.
Haya, katika maneno ya Jeddah, Jeddah wanasemekana ni weak.
Yes.
But they are the great thinkers anyway.
Yes.
Hebu fikiria wakati uko na bibi, hata atakwambia ulioa yeye lini? Atakwambia hata ile mara ngapi ulikosea yeye? Na wewe ukiwa bwana hata ulisahau. Kwa hivyo kwa mwili hawana nguvu, lakini kwa akili wako na nguvu sana.
Asante sana Maina kutoka Kipipiri. Maoni mazuri hapo na tutachangia hapa na panel. Asante sana Maina. I believe Vincent is also online waiting on from Kawangware. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Your comment?
Mimi naitwa Vincent.
Yes.
Na niko Kawangware.
Yes, sir.
Kwanza nasema pole, nimeona accident.
Kweli, nasema pole pia.
Na ningesema pole kwa wale wamepoteza uhai wa wapendo wao. Okay, nitaguzia tu kidogo kwa barabara kwa sababu mimi ni driver, afu nitarudi kwa upande wa employee. Upande wa driver, sijui serikali ama sijui ni nani ataelezea watu kwamba there before ninaona magari kubwa zinaambiwa keep left unless overtaking. Nyinyi kama media fanyeni research sahi muone magari zote zina keep right. So siku hizi magari zina overtake from left. Hiyo ni makosa nimeona hata kwa highway, hata sahi ukichukua tu Lang'ata road hii bypass hii utakuta basi trailer 3 zimefuatana zimefunga barabara. I don't understand wanatumia laini gani hapo hivyo. Hata ukitoka hapo unaelekea Western, unakuta gari imekaa tu right mpaka unatafuta venye utamuovertake from left. Hiyo kitu msipozingatia, ajali zitaendelea kukua tu kwa barabara hadi sahihi.
Kweli Vincent.
Kuna madam pale kwa
panel.
Hapo kwa panel. Nilikuwa nataka nichangie mambo ya HR kidogo.
Okay.
I don't understand, most of the companies wamechukua ladies kama HR.
Okay.
Alafu sijui role hiyo HR inamaanisha namna gani, kwa sababu most of employees especially managers wakishachukua msichana kama HR anapewa masharti ya kufuata kazi on favor of boss, not on favor of employees. So unakuta kwamba ama sijui HR akiapply job huwa wanatumia nini gani, kwa sababu unaweza kuta hauna mtu wa kukutetea. HR ndio unafaa kupeleka malalamishi yako ili akusaidie. Na akiwa kwa boss na boss anakunyanyasa, do you think tuko na right ya tuko na mahali tunaweza jitetea? Nimesikia huko upande wa koti, ukiwa na kesi ukipeleka unaambiwa kwanza sijui uende wapi. Unakuta umewaste a lot of time, employees wengi wameumia kwa sababu hawana watu wa kuwatetea. HR wenye kumtetea huenda hata ni rafiki ya boss.
Hawatetei. Kweli. Hapo Vincent tumeongea na tunashukuru. Umezungumzia ajali kama dereva wewe mwenyewe, na pia umechangia issue ya leo ambayo tunazungumzia the workplace and employment, and we could start with the response from this. Actually, I'll throw it to you, Wanjiru, and he feels that there's a structure in a way. How come, first of all, there are many women assigned to the HR department? Maybe it's to what Maina says, wanaweza panga vitu vizuri, wanakumbuka vitu vizuri, but he brings up the issue, is there like a silent or an agreement where they are to follow what the boss says as HR managers? Perhaps, are you responsible as HR managers for the situation as is, the disparity that we have?
I will take that, looking at it from different angles. When you think about the HR profession, it's what I was talking about earlier. It's how our upbringing is almost like bringing HR as a nurturing profession. So you find that there are many women who land in HR than there are men. Just like so many other professions, you find that there is that disparity of who is taking up this profession than the other. So yeah, you find a lot of women will land in HR. That doesn't mean that now that is changing. It actually is changing. I know of very many HR offices where we have more men than women now, because the profession has also realized that the growth of men in that is very possible. Because then again, when you go back, when you take a back seat and you look, you will find that with the disparities that we're talking about, the most of the management, you'll find a lot of men than women, and men tend to be the decision makers more from a societal point of view. Like our society is patriarchal, so you find that most decision making is done by the men, and therefore bringing the men within the HR profession has really added a lot of value. So yeah, I mean, I hear him, because really the profession has grown as such with more women than men, but that is changing.
Can I throw it to you then? Someone might be thinking, as HR manager at Java, this is as an example, not free advertising, but as HR manager there, and if there's a concern about disparity of gender, isn't it then a failure on your part? Someone might expect, if Wanjiru is there as the manager, she should be in the front line to at least raise the the numbers on merit, of course. But is it then a failure on your part?
No, I hear where you're coming from.
Yes.
I'll tell you, like I said, in very many offices, I've seen that changing. And to be honest, my office is one of them. We have like almost equal numbers. We have more men than we have women within the HR department. However, that doesn't mean that any of them has been brought there for any other reason. It's by merit. So they are there by merit. You'll find that sometimes you'll look and you'll be like, oh, why do we have all these women within the interview who have come to interview for these jobs, and you will go back and say, don't we have any men? You know, even in the shortlisting, you'll actually ask yourself, don't we have any men who've applied for this? Can we go back and see whether we have any men? So yes, it's actually very intentional for you to be able to understand, do I want a female candidate or a male candidate? And possibly, just alluding back to what Nyambura had said, it's how we advertise for jobs. Even as HR practitioners, we will say women are encouraged to apply. What does that really mean? Is it a woman's job? Or are we saying that this profession has been taken over by the male profession, and therefore we are the male side of the gender, and therefore we're trying to bring in more women? Or what exactly are we saying when we say that statement?
Okay,
You know?
and Nyambura, we'll be getting to the issue raised by Maina from Kipipiri about the social structures. But first to you, you've been quiet for a bit because the pictures were continuing, but someone watching might say, come on, there's affirmative action in terms of educating the girl child. Let's use that term that has been used. And right now, there's a concern that the boy child is being neglected. So if we bring it to the workspace, to be honest, someone might say, you've been educated, you come to the competition on a level playing field, and you're gauged on merit. And even during the results, we see girls are excelling. You know, so when you come to, and she will correct me because she's a recruiter and HR manager, but when you come for an interview, you come on the basis of your capability. So why don't we just let it play out as such?
Okay, and I hear you, and that should be. I wish it was that easy. Let us just play it as such. But the issue is coming from a society where we already have power imbalances. Right? Where men, by general of being men, hold access to money, access to land, access to things. So they're providers. So you're coming through as a woman who already thinks or is told that is less than, or does not have access to these things, right? So let's say, for a better example, someone who leaves JKUAT with engineering, a man and a woman. You try off internship, but you just, as a woman, you just intern. You think, oh, well, I had done KCA to CPA, something. You branch out to accounts, right? And why most women, as much as Shiro said, most women are not applying for STEM, it is that the numbers are increasing, but the women are either diverging to other careers or just stagnant at some point. And this is why. Because leadership, the way we think of leadership, has to be demystified, in that we still think that office politics need to be aggressive, whereas that puts people out. Research shows that women play safer because they think, and it's because they've been socialized, that if you step up, you're punished for it. You're punished for it, why? Because leadership, as we conceive it, is masculine. It's aggression. And away from the leadership values is because women tend to take up care roles. When young men are going to network, young women go to take care of kids, right? So we want to say that the profession or the workplace is leveled, but it's not. And it's not one particular thing, it's a lot of things. It's what do you do before work? What do you do after work? It's also, if your employer, the lead team, doesn't know what implicit bias is, they will automatically pick up a leader as a man. And not because of anything, but because we don't even realize that as people, we have implicit bias against things. And it's because of how we've been raised. Okay. So part of what we do is, Diversity Workshop is realizing, I, as Nyambura, naturally think that a leader should be a man. And how does that play out in my workspace?
Let's look at that, because, and I think it was Wanjiru who brought it up, where does the shaping begin? And we are taught, even from the home level, that the leader of the home is the man. The provider is the man. And I'll probably throw it to Reverend. Are you the ones who've been, shaping this or molding this in the wrong way? Because there's that construct. We know the leader of the home is a man. So even from the home, which is the core of society, the family, is that where we should start changing the narrative?
I think it's going to be a multifaceted attempt and effort to change the stereotypes and the norms and the customs and culture. But having said that, we can spend eternity mourning about the past and get nowhere. I think we need to move to the future. Allowing the woman to take her rightful place everywhere in the society will take very deliberate action. And we've got to do it. I read in the media not too long ago that one of the leading companies in this country has achieved 50%, 50-50 men and women. I think Rwanda is leading very well in politics in that regard, having women in the system. What do I mean? What do I say? It will take very deliberate action. It will take very deliberate thinking, and we do it.
Okay, let me hold you on that point, and I'm told we need to fix your mic, but your point has been heard. And I'll throw it to Lloyd and ask, as a focus on the youth, times are changing. We could talk about, the past where it was a man who would go out and get, the breadwinner, be the breadwinner, and bring back the bread and brawn, or whatever we can call it. But times are changing for the youth especially, and we're all in the market together. Yeah. So someone watching this might say, why are we mumping? Let's just step up and show up and perform. In your view, are people actually being closed out based on their gender?
I think, in my view, first to agree that times are changing. The workplace is changing. The definition of the job, the employment is completely changing. I mean, for me to be an influencer is a job that didn't exist and probably will not exist 2 years from today. It's changing so rapidly. However, we are still stuck in a place where we are still thinking that I should prepare my girl to be a mom and my girl to be a nurturer.
Yeah.
I think,
as Maina has said.
Maina has mentioned it very clearly. It's the way we are bringing up our children. I think as a society, I feel we are a little bit dissuaded. Not really dissuaded, but a little bit misinformed and a bit unprepared for the change that is coming. The trends are showing very clearly that opinions, even the HR department might not really be a very strong department in the next 10, 20 years. If everyone is going to go, or let me say it will be redefined, because she's looking at me very upset, but it will be redefined. Yeah? But we are not ready. We are not prepared. We are not, and this is going to become a serious place for conflict, new levels of conflict. I have a feeling that at some point in time, the way we are going, these positions that we hold will not be very useful, honestly. And I'm worried about that. And we need to then go back to the way we nurture. I think for me that's very important.
So are we changing, are we going to change the definition of, because it is in our minds that the leader of the home is the man. Yeah. The father. And if that is my construct from the family level, at least if I'm fortunate to have a father figure, then even the son and the daughter, they are brought up to think that way. Does that need to change? I believe you mentioned you're a parent?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Would you change that now as a parent?
Of a girl, yes. Yes, I'm a dad of a girl. Look, simple things like, why should I buy my girl a doll? Why? Who said that girls can only play with dolls? I buy her a ball, I buy her a doll, she chooses. Unless we start at that point, that is the point where the rain begins to beat us. Because when we go next into the next 10, 20 years, and this girl is an engineer better than all the boys in the room, then the boys in the room start becoming upset by that. And there starts to be a conflict. So I think it's the way we nurture. But I also want to say one thing. Single parent homes, especially single mother homes, lots of negative things said about them. Forget the negative things. They are a reality. Single father homes are not as many. So that means that role of men being the providers is being questioned by the reality of today. We have women in very high positions, and these women, these ladies are, they run their own homes very successfully, bring up men and women very successfully. So what are we now saying that men can be the providers? we start another problem. And then we get into that boy-child conversation. That's my belief.
You have something to say. Your mic is fixed now.
We would make a serious mistake if we get into gender war, which tends to then communicate that all men are the same and all women are the same. No, they are not. We are gifted differently. And I think from where I sit, my role would be trying to put the best person for purpose, for whatever position there is, and that person can do a good job. We are gifted differently. You know, a man is a woman by design, and a man is a man by design. If I told my daughter that she must grow up to be a man, I am destroying her, and so are my boys if I tell them they grow up to be women. It doesn't make sense. However, having said that, I think we must recognize that there has been disparities in the society and deal with them very decidedly and very focused to right the wrong, but not to push people because someone is a woman to a position that they really are not prepared for.
Nyambura?
I was going to say, I mean, this conversation could go on days and days, and it's because it's a historical spectrum. But I think when we talk about stereotypes, it's good to differentiate between what we call sex roles and gender roles. And gender roles can be fluid. Sex roles are static. I mean, this is what only women can give birth. And therefore, let's take care of the structural barriers that come against women in the workplace when they give birth. So because what the discussion about equity is about realizing that this person is this way naturally, but also because of their gender, they are prone to structural impediments in terms of getting career mobility. So in conversation, I keep saying we need to, against the history, against the resources, against the time that we have.
It sounds a bit like need for special treatment or consideration. Is that what we're talking about?
So the specific needs that women would have in their workplace, those should be looked at. But beyond that, we need to evaluate the workspace as it is in terms of how does the workspace as it is today work against the women. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think it's not one particular thing that I keep saying, it's many things.
Okay.
So I don't want this conversation to be, let's look at the women and pull them up. That's not what we're saying. We're saying, let us equip women with the tools and information and the trainings and everything that they need. But also, let us evaluate the workspace and see how the structure as it is today works against their career mobility.
And on that point, then something that you can address, Wanjiru, because there's the issue of when you're asking someone to take up a role, and this I have a lot of respect. For instance, my wife, she's a mother, a wife, and as well as a career woman. And balancing all that, it takes a lot. But then if you have a demanding career or role that will take a lot of travel, and then you might have a lady in her rights to ask, first of all, there's a maternity leave, then I need to be, because I'm a nursing mom, I need to be around home, so I can't travel a lot. Then the HR person or recruiter might just say, okay, then this is the role that you can take, and it can only be given to either a lady who's a single woman or who's not a family woman. And we have that argument where you're told, choose career progression or family.
Is there a policy where we can be able to send those women with their caregivers that help them? Because, I mean, we are career women, true, but we still go to work for like 8 hours in a day. We leave our children at home with somebody else, possibly somebody I don't know, but I have gotten to know and trust. Is it possible to make it possible for that person to even travel with her child and her domestic manager?
The employer might think that's a more cost.
Exactly my point. That's why we need policies. That's why we need policies that are taking care of that space. Because, like Nyambura says, we could have a discussion the whole day.
Yes.
But then the idea is, what is that is empowering the both genders and making them play on a platform that is equal? Because that's the problem. The problem is the platform is not possibly equal. You have the merit, but they're all this, and she said it right. There is a sex role, and that sex role demands that I have a child, I will take my maternity leave, a training will bypass me because I was away when the training was offered, and then on and on and on and on. A job will come, it needs me to travel, I cannot travel because, hey, I have a 3-month-old child. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, she says I have a 5-month-old child. And I am supposed to go to Mombasa. I'm like, I don't understand how you're able to do that. He says, I'm trying to ask my employer to send me at least and take care of this other expense. The question is, if that is your best employee, why would that employer not take them and take the expense?
I have to wrap up. It's a few seconds for you, just a few seconds really, and we have to keep a few seconds from Lloyd going down the panel. Really quick remarks.
I think if we need to protect gender justice justice for women at the workplace, we need to include the man from a very young age.
In this conversation?
In this conversation.
All right.
We need to include the man and the boy.
Okay. To you, Wanjiru?
I think we need to talk on a roundtable, all men and women. We need to look at policies and then be able to include both genders. And
there's a roundtable of sorts this evening, and that's a conversation that needs to be more inclusive in terms of having men and women at the table. But for you, Nyambura, you mentioned earlier there are like 62% of women in the workspace, but it's about the remuneration and appreciation. Is it the issue of women at the workspace or remuneration?
It's both. Okay. That's why I said this conversation has to have all stakeholders.
Okay.
Because it's that women are there in the workspace, but the work that they do sometimes is not as decent as the men, and even if they do the equal work, they're not paid equally as men. Okay. So it's a conversation of remuneration, recruitment, retention, all those things, you know. And this conversation gets heated because it's about shifting attitudes, shifting resources, shifting leadership and power. And so I understand, but it's that beyond speeches, beyond conversations, and we're thankful, is that we have to tend to the structures. We have to tend to the policies. And as today's event went, another event, it's that we have pleasant rules, we have progressive constitutions, but we're not implementing, or we implement for a while, then we go away. You know, so it's about consistency. Okay,
I'm under pressure here because my director, Catherine, who's a lady, CK, who's a lady who is very aggressive, and that's probably why she's the director. I need to keep time. Rev, finalize.
Well, I think men would shoot me for this, but they need to be reminded that the ground has shifted. The change has come. Women must take their rightful place.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that. You've kept it very brief. Thank you to Reverend Jenga. Thank you to Nyambura, and all the best in the function this evening, later on. And Wanjiru, for allowing me to take your time in the morning. You'll be there as well in the evening. I don't know if Lloyd Muruki will be there at the function later on. Yes, and thank you. She says no, but don't worry. You make a good point of involving men in these conversations and in this pushing campaign for this. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time and your thoughts on this. Your online social media platforms so they can follow what you're doing?
WL Hangouts.
Yes.
And on Facebook, Women Leaders Hangouts.
Okay. She didn't pay me for that. I'm just following through, making sure that you can follow up on this conversation because it can go on and on and on and on. And I should stop going on and on and on and on. And we'll be getting updates on this accident in Pala, in Awasi, in Kisumu County. Oko Kusa is following up on the developments to this sad beginning of the Friday, October the 4th. More news will be coming your way, of course, at 9 o'clock with NTV Today and following throughout the day. My name is Mark Masai. Have yourself a good day.